Okay, this morning I just left a muskrat shelter, uh, probably a good 10 minutes ago, and today is going to be a fairly easy day. I think there's one big climb on my way to, I think it's the Clayton shelter or something like that. There you go, there's some of the trail back there. So I'm doing okay. I'm safe. I'm secure. People out here are really nice. And there were two older ladies and two younger people, a female and a male. They can talk. They'll talk. If they're awake, they're talking. Okay. So the two ladies are going into town. The older ladies are going into town, and can't remember their names. I'm terrible about names. I also met Cowboy, and he's missing his lower right arm, and he's doing this thing with one pole. Man, but you know what? He can pass me up any day, and you know, eventually I'll catch him at the shelters because I just walk longer than they do. That's basically what the difference is between me and most other people, is they go faster. They don't take as many breaks, but you know, in the end, we're all getting to the same place. So I'm happy. I'm good to go. My legs are a little sore. I can't feel them while I'm walking, but when I try to stretch them, that's when they hurt. Stepping over logs, there's a few logs that have been on the trail. The wind got up really bad earlier this week and had a few blowdowns and things like that. They had tornado watches, and oh man, it just rained. So I'm going to kind of do a little recap here. I started on Sunday about 9:30 in the morning, April 2nd, and that was a pretty good day. It was a hard day because I did the approach trail, and I don't care what they say, the approach trail is, you know, I mean, it's just like this other trail, except it's all up. Everything is up. And so I thought I was going to die trying to get up there to Springer Mountain. I was expecting more to be at Springer Mountain than what was there. There was a little plaque. A trail runner was there, and she kind of told us a little bit about what the conditions of the trail up ahead of us were. And look at this. This is a beautiful place, huh? It's cold here. I guess last night it was in the 30s. And you know, it was kind of cold in the shelter. I slept in the shelter last night. I didn't use my tent. I was too tired to put it up. And there was one place left in the shelter, so that's what I took. Okay, so back to my story. We got up to Springer Mountain. She told us that where the water sources and everything were, and so I made it over to Stover's shelter. My first day, that was about 13 miles, 12.6 if you go by the map. And then I got up the next morning early, maybe about 4 o'clock. Packed I stayed in my tent, packed everything up, went to filter water, and I think his name was Brian. He was a former Marine, and He, the last 10 years, he's been doing security, personal security for like CEOs and things like that. He not what I expected the security guard to look like. Uh, he was smaller than I was, and him and another Marine, I can't remember the other guy's his name, his trail name, but they were both former Marines, and he was younger than Brian, so they both took off, and I filtered water, got out of camp about 5:30 in the morning. It started, we knew it was going to rain, so that's why we wanted to get out early. So so we started walking, and it started raining on me. More of a drizzle than anything else, but it rained on me for a while. It got so bad that my headlamp could only see about 6 feet ahead of me, which is okay because I usually just look right down at the ground in front because of all the rocks and stuff. This trail is pretty good right now because there's no rocks. Well, there's few rocks, but I mean, you can avoid them if you really tried. So it rained and it rained and it rained, and my destination was Gooch Gap Shelter, but I didn't make it there. Well, I made it there, but before I did, the rain and the storm came, and there were 4 of us hikers. We climbed up under a rock ledge to get out of the thunder. We were on top of a ridge, and I sat there for about an hour trying to wait it out, and it didn't seem to end. So I got out. Everyone else had already left, so I got out and went on to Gooch Gap Shelter, and I think it's a shelter for about 12 to 15, and there were at least 18 people standing in the shelter, and there were a few tents. Later on, okay, White Stamp Oak. I guess that's a trail off to the side. It's a Blue Blaze. And there's a White Blaze. I don't know if I've shown the White Blaze yet, but I may have taken a picture of one, but that's White Blaze. That's what I'm following all the way up to Katahdin. And so at Gooch Gap, I got some water, filtered some water there. It about stopped raining by then, but I wasn't sure if anyone was going to leave the shelter, so I decided to just keep on walking. Oh man, did I walk. I walked all the way to Woody Gap. That's about 18 miles. Too much for a second day. I was so tired. I put up my tent, and George, who was one of the campers there, a hiker, I don't know if he was a through hiker or not, but he was there, and he helped me do my first bear bag, which is hanging your food from a tree. He showed me all the knots because I can't remember them. Brenda tried to teach me, and I mean, she's good at it. I just can't remember how to do it. Across, over one, under the other, through the hole, up and over and through the hole again, I think. Something like that. Anyway, okay, so that was Monday, April 3rd. Steady climb. Let me stop here for a minute. Okay. So Monday night I tented at Woody Gap, and we had trail magic there from two ladies, Indiana Jones, and I don't remember the other lady's name. Anyway, Indiana Jones did the trail a few years ago, and they had beans and wiener pieces, fruit, chocolate stuff. They had Tootsie Rolls. Ooh, Tootsie Rolls. And what? Oh, they had a tangerine there too. So I had a good hot meal at Woody Gap, and so I didn't cook or anything. I was too tired. I just went to bed and woke up in the morning. There was what do they call it? A privy, but it didn't have any water, so you had to kind of just use the facility and go back to your camp and wash your hands and stuff. So that was Monday. Tuesday, I made it to Neal's Gap. That's like 30.2 or 3 miles onto the trail, and that's not including the approach trail. The approach trail is 8.8 miles. So in Neal's Gap, I ate my first microwave cheeseburger, and not the first one, but that's on the trail. My first microwave cheeseburger, and boy, that tasted so good. I had a Coke, some Gatorade, and I think I got a Snickers bar, and then I went up to camp. The hostel there was full, so okay, so there's a few rocks here. That's why I'm taking my time. So when I tried to check into the shelter, the hostel, it was full, so I had to camp out in back of the hostel, and there I met Daniel. No, not Daniel. What was his name? Kevin. It was Kevin and Josh, and I think her name was Kira. Josh and Kira are a couple traveling together. They had 2 dogs and a guitar. And I tell you what, Kevin plays guitar awesome. He's just awesome on that guitar. They stayed up late at night, and everybody in the camp enjoyed it. Okay, so it rained a lot. I'm going to go ahead and show you this. There you go. The water is still running off from all the rains. Let me take my time and get across this. All right. So Kevin, and there were 2 other ladies there. An English lady, called her B. I can't remember what her real name was, but everybody seemed to call her B. And then Summer. There was a little 19-year-old kid whose pack was way overweight. He didn't have the appropriate equipment, I don't think. So anyway, I asked all 4 of them if they wanted to share a mountain cabin, Blood Mountain cabin, and the kid said no, that he was going to continue on the trail. So the other 3 joined me and shared the cost of the mountain cabin, and I think I showed that earlier inside the cabin while no one else was there. The next day, the reason that we shared that cabin was because they had predicted tornadoes and thunderstorms and hail and all kinds of stuff. And so we stayed that night. The next day, the other three took off and they stopped at Woody Gap and caught a ride into town. So they had to go back and do the Woody Gap to Blood Mountain Trail. And, oh, hang on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I just had to stop and adjust my stuff here. So they went out and it was supposed to rain that day, and they knew it and everything, and so they went on and caught the shuttle back to Woody Gap and did that Woody Gap to Blood Mountain or Neal's Gap. Neal's Gap is just a little place in the road, really, where hikers would be. Probably do the hikers from like February to probably June or something like that, and then maybe they do bicycles or something else. Anyway, if I ever had a chance to come here, I'd ride my motorcycle up and around these mountain roads. They're twisty, turny, ups and downs and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's pretty nice. Occasionally you'll get a good view. I haven't seen any on the trail, hardly. I've taken pictures of the things that I thought were noteworthy. Sometimes my phone the battery is dead, so I haven't been able. I've missed a few, and maybe more than a few. Anyway, we stayed the next night because it was supposed to be really cold and wet and everything. So Kevin met this Irish girl, Orla, and she spent the day with me while they were hiking back to Neal's Gap. And then that night we met another kid, and they told him that he could come, and he was going to tent up there and behind that hostel. But Kevin, I think, offered to let him take a shower in our cabin and just clean up. That's a luxury around here, getting a shower. I need a shower so bad and wash my clothes again. I've already done that. I did that at Mountain Shelter. Oh, excuse me. Oh well. So is the trials and tribulations of the trail. Okay, so he came up and took a shower and everything. We noticed that he had a guitar, and he packed up and was ready to leave, and I asked Bea if she had offered to let him stay, and she said no, but we should. And so we did, and hey, we enjoyed Kevin's guitar playing again. It wasn't so good this time because apparently this kid, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, he put steel guitar strings on an acoustic guitar, and it wouldn't stay tuned. So Kevin played for a while, adjusting it, and he finally got tired of it, I think. So anyway, the six of us slept in the cabin that night, And the next morning, Orla and I decided to try to do 20 to catch up, or not catch up, but make up the time that we did that we missed on those 2-0 days. And so she took off, and I took off 20 minutes later. And she's an experienced hiker in Ireland. So, and she's done 3 months on the PCT. Anyway, she took off, and I took off 20 minutes later or so, 25 minutes later. And we caught up with one another. Well, we caught up with one another before the shelter, but because she eats lunch and that kind of stuff, I don't eat lunch. Sorry. I hope you can see that. That's the kind of stuff that you see every few little while. You know, it's just you got to step down those things, and there's rocks and tree roots and that kind of stuff. So back to my story. I caught up with her on the trail, almost probably a few miles short of the shelter, and then she took off, and she's a lot faster than me, so she took off and made it to the shelter. My plan was to do 20 to the Blue Mountain Shelter. She made it to Blue Mountain Shelter, and she kind of waited there. And when I got there, I was so tired. My plan was to go on to Highway 75 and catch a ride in to Helen and spend the night, because it was supposed to be really cold. And when I got to the shelter, I was so tired. I couldn't make 2 more miles to the road. I took my pack off and everything and just sat there for like, I don't know, 30-45 minutes or something before doing anything. And met a guy that was doing a Dave. His name was Dave. He's a thru hiker, and his daughter has a nonprofit just outside of Washington, D.C. And so he's doing the trail and promoting that nonprofit. His grandson had an accident as a young boy, and 1 year old. And so his daughter did all she could while she was working and supporting him and everything. I think he's 21 now. But what she did was she just eventually just quit her job. Said her job now is to take care of her son. And so he has brain damage, and can't take care of himself, so she takes care of him full time. Makes people aware. Oh man, this is tough. So anyway, that's why he's doing the trail. Not his only reason, but that's, if he can promote that, then that's what he's going to do. The next morning, Orla got up and took off. It was really, really cold that night. I mean, it was like, if it wasn't freeze, it didn't freeze because the water didn't freeze, but it was really cold. It was supposed to get down to like 30, 32. And it must have got right at 32, because, I mean, it was really cold. I slept with my water filter and my electronics in my bag, my sleeping bag with me, because the water filter is no good if it freezes, breaks the ceramic stuff inside, and won't filter as good as it should. So anyway, she left and I left, maybe about 30, 45 minutes later. And let me change hands here. 30, 45 minutes later, and I haven't seen her since. I made it to, I decided I was going to make up that time, those miles that I missed on the 2-0 days. So I did another 20. Well, the first one was only 18 because I missed the last two, but I did 20 on the second day. And anyway, I made it to Top of Georgia Hostel about 8 o'clock, but they were closed. They closed at 7. So I went on, and there was about a mile, 3/4 of a mile or a mile past Deep Creek Gap. There's a camping spot there, and so there was one tent there, and I went to bed about 9 o'clock. I just cowboyed camped because I didn't want to do anything. I was pretty tired. Cowboy camping is where I just put my Tyvek sheet down and then put my mattress. I have a blow-up air mattress, and then my sleeping bag, or my quilt. I have a quilt, and the quilt is a Revelation and Enlightened Equipment 20-degree quilt, and it works okay, except I just don't know how to use it because I keep getting wind coming in. The wind is like, for like 4 days now, and today is the 8th day. For 4 out of those 8 days, the wind has been blowing like 30, 35 miles an hour and gusting to 40, 45 miles an hour. And it's like, ooh. And it does it all day and all night. You know, you'll get down in one of these gaps or something, and you can't feel it, or behind the mountain, you can't feel it. But as soon as you get out from behind there, you get into the wind again. So the next morning, yeah, that's why. Another step down. The next morning I went down to the hostel to see if Orla or anyone else had made it there, and they had not. So I ate breakfast, 3 bowls of Cheerios. They didn't have any juice or decaffeinated stuff. I listened to Sir Paxalot, who owns that hostel. It's a non-profit educational hostel, so they take, I think it was $25 to stay there, and a shower, which includes the shower and the breakfast. They had what they called a hot breakfast, which was biscuits and sausage, and that was $3 extra. So I just had the cereal, and It's all you could eat though. So if you wanted biscuits and sausage, you could eat as much as you wanted. There were quite a few people there. Uh, I inquired about a shuttle because uh, I have trainers instead of trail runners, and the rocks are really beating up the balls of my feet. I feel just about every rock out here, and so I was going to go in to the outfitter and see if I could get trail runners instead of these trainers. Sir Paxalot told me, and he's a Triple Crown winner, which means he did the PCT, the CDT, and the Appalachian Trail. So everyone kind of trusts his judgment and stuff. He used to do pack breakdowns for people that made it to Dix Creek, but I overheard him speaking that he doesn't do that anymore because it just takes up too much time. People expect, to spend 40 minutes with each person in their pack. It just takes too much time. So anyway, he also told me that the Chattahoochee was where Deliverance, which is a film made back in the 70s with Burt Reynolds. Oh. Burt Reynolds and can't remember the other guy's name, but he's a big actor, a big name actor now, and Ned Beatty. And he said it was made around there. And he gives it at breakfast every morning. He gives his spiel about the trails and everything, trying to inform backpackers or hikers about how to do the right things. Okay, all right, let me just finish this part. So he went through the things that that leave no trace, how many people quit and where and why, and his 10 rules for hiking. What else did he? Oh, he said that what I'm doing now, Georgia rated on a scale of 1 to 10 for the Appalachian Trail is a 4, which is hard to believe because, man, it was pretty tough. At least the way I did it. 13 and 18, another, I don't know, 11 or something like that. And then 2 0 days, and then another 18 and a 20. And it's a tough trail. So anyway, he said Georgia is a 4, and he said the Rockies are like a 6 or 7, and so that's up ahead in a couple of weeks. So I'll go ahead and finish this. Golly, bring you up on the week. So I took off after breakfast. It was probably about 8. I left the hostel about 8, and they have a shuttle that takes you back the half-mile up the hill to the trail, but they were pretty full. They had so many hikers there. So, and I wasn't a paying guest, so I had to hike up there half a mile and then re-hike the mile that I did the night before. And And so I hiked. I decided I was going to make it out of Georgia. And so I did, and I think I have some pictures on the camera that that shows me and the Georgia-North Carolina border. And then right there, you know, the end of Georgia is really tough. There's big, long climbs and stuff. But going into North Carolina, half a mile into North Carolina, you start climbing. 3 mountains you have to go over. And I didn't want to stop there and then have to do those 3 mountains first thing in the morning. That would just ruin my whole day. So I started up that first mountain, and it was tough. It was really tough. You think you're to the top, but you're not. You just go around the corner and go up again. The second mountain wasn't quite as bad as the first one, but it was still tough. Especially with the worn out legs. And so I did make it up the third mountain. Cowboy and another gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he has gut hooks on his phone. Water Oak Gap. So he has gut hooks on his phone, and he showed us where we were when we stopped for a minute, and we were about halfway up the second mountain. I thought that was the third one, so I was so disappointed. You know, because you go up a mountain, then you go down a little into a gap, and then you go on up. You don't go down very far, but you go up on the next one. And I thought, okay, well, that's in the next mountain, but nope. And I was so tired, man. I was so tired. Then the third mountain, you know what? I was so tired, I don't even remember that third mountain. Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember this is what I do. This is what I did about every 100 yards or so. Put that one right there, put this one right here, and just lean, just to rest, catch my breath. This I've been doing since the beginning, and it does help. It lets me catch my breath, especially going up hills. And you know, up hills, the lower back and the butt is what gets me. And going down hills, it's the thighs. So I do it uphill and downhill. So last night, I got into the shelter, muskrat shelter, after those 3 mountains. And so muskrat shelter was, there were 5 of us in there. More people wanted to be in there, but it's only room for 5. I was the last one to get in. And I think I told you about all that earlier. So this morning I got up, and now I don't remember the name of the Carter Gap shelter, I think is where it is. Mile 93 on the trail. Okay. Let me see if you can get an idea. This is uphill. You may not be able to see it, the elevation, but that's uphill. I'm going to take you around and show you the other side. There it is. It just goes up around the corner and then turn a little flat and then on up, I think. That's typically what happens here. There's up the hill. And there's the other, down the hill and the other mountains on the other side over there. So